Morning, and here we are again looking at step by step to the coming King. And we're doing that by going back to the beginning, going back to the Old Testament. We are still in Genesis. We're going to gather speed a little bit. The train is, it's pulled out of the station, is chugging, and it's going to really gather speed fairly soon. But we're still in Genesis, still looking at the lives of, we did Abraham, now Isaac and Jacob, particularly Isaac and Jacob today. And we're learning, I think, well, this is the way I would put it, we're learning the vocabulary of salvation. If you want to learn a language, then you've got to learn the grammar, how words fit together. But you've got to have a vocabulary. You've got to have actual words, which you then put together. And the gospel, Christianity, the Bible has a certain vocabulary. Just off the top of my head, obviously, I've mentioned one already: gospel, salvation, faith, grace, God, Jesus, and so on. And to do that, to learn a language, you've got to start at the beginning. You've got to start with the ABCs before you can even get on to proper words. And in a sense, that's what we're doing here in Genesis. These are the ABCs, which is not to be patronizing about the Old Testament, not to look down our noses at it. This is as important and as essential as anything else, as the rest of the Bible. And like I'm saying, without this, you will never understand that. Okay? And one of the things we're learning from Jacob, Jacob becomes one of the patriarchs, one of the great leaders of faith in the history of Judaism and in Christianity, those who take the Bible seriously. But what we're learning from him in these chapters, and we'll see it very clearly again today, is that if you want God in your life, if you want to have him and what he's promised, then you have to go his way. If you want the Lord's blessing, and ultimately to do the Lord's work, you have to do it his way. At this point, this is the problem with Jacob. He does have a longing for something beyond himself, something that he's heard of from his parents, and a dim sort of memory in his family about Abraham and how God called him and the blessings through Abraham. He sort of has some understanding of that and certainly some desire for that. But he goes about it completely the wrong way. I think he has a sincere desire, but he is sincerely wrong in the way that he goes about it. And this is often the case in life. We saw it with Cain and Abel at the beginning. They were both worshippers, but God accepted one type of worship and rejected the other. Why? Because one person, Abel, came the way that the Lord wants us to come, by faith, trusting in a sacrifice. Cain came boastfully, really, and with pride, bringing the works of his hands and saying, "There we are, Lord, accept me on that basis." That's still true today. There are many people who are worshippers, many people who are believers, many people in churches or in other religions. They might be very sincere. They might be very zealous. They're full of works. They're full of passion and full of commitment. They might be Muslims. They might be Hindus. They might be Jehovah's Witnesses. They might be Roman Catholics. They might be Baptists. They might be Anglicans. But we have to come God's way. We can't earn salvation. We can't buy it. That's what Jacob is trying to do. We can't steal it. In this passage now, through deception, through tricky shady, worldly means. That's what religion is trying to do. It's trying to somehow get a blessing from God through our efforts, through our morality, through our religion. No, Jacob will learn that he's got to be broken and he's got to come by faith, but it's going to be a hard slog. Some people learn that quickly. Some people have to be battered and bruised into it, it seems. Jacob's one of those hard cases. I mean, it's wonderful what will come out eventually. So this is what we've got to learn here. Not all worship is acceptable to God. Not all religious activity, however sincere, is acceptable. Yes, the Lord wants to bless. That's what this is all about. Jacob seems to want that and hunger for that, but he's doing it the wrong way. So let's plunge in. It's quite a long reading today, so bear with us. But in these details, there's so much to learn. And the title today, Jacob Steals the Blessing of Isaac. It's Genesis 27, first of all, 1 to 29. When Isaac was old and his eyes were so weak that he could no longer see, he called for Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son, here I am," he answered. Isaac said, "I'm now an old man and don't know the day of my death. Now then, get your weapons, your quiver and bow, and go out to the open country to hunt some wild game for me. Prepare me the kind of tasty food I like and bring it to me to eat so that I may give you my blessing before I die." Now Rebekah was listening as Isaac spoke to his son Esau. When Esau left for the open country to hunt game and bring it back, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "Look, I overheard your father say to your brother Esau, 'Bring me some game and prepare me some tasty food to eat so that I may give you my blessing.'" I'm going to keep emphasizing that word as we go along. "In the presence of the Lord before I die. Now, my son, listen carefully and do what I tell you. Go out to the flock and bring me 2 choice young goats so that I can prepare some tasty food for your father, just the way he likes it. Then take it to your father to eat so that he may give you his blessing before he dies." Jacob said to Rebekah, his mother, "But my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I'm a man with smooth skin. What if my father touches me? I would appear to be tricking him and would bring down a curse on myself rather than a blessing." His mother said to him, "My son, let the curse fall on me. Just do what I say. Go and get them for me." So he went and got them and brought them to his mother, and she prepared some tasty food just the way his father liked it. Then Rebekah took the best clothes of Esau, her older son, which she had in the house, and put them on her younger son, Jacob. She also covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goat skins. Then she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she had made. He went to his father and said, "My father?" "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I'm Esau, your firstborn. I've done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau, so he blessed him. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," he replied. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of heaven's dew and of earth's richness, an abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed. So Jacob steals the blessing of Isaac, and then at the end of the chapter 41 to 45, this is the result. Esau held a grudge against Jacob because of the blessing his father had given him. He said to himself, the days of mourning for my father are near, then I will kill my brother Jacob. When Rebekah was told what her older son Esau had said, she sent for her younger son Jacob and said to him, your brother Esau is consoling himself with the thought of killing you. Now then, my son, do what I say. Flee at once to my brother Laban in Haran. Stay with him for a while until your brother's fury subsides. When your brother is no longer angry with you and forgets what you did to him, I'll send word for you to come back from there. Why should I lose both of you in one day? Amen. What an amazing story. One of my favorites. Very dramatic. And it doesn't show Jacob in a good light. And yet this is the man that God is determined to bless and use. And this is the man who wants to be blessed and used, but he's just going about it completely the wrong way. Now we see in this family, don't we? We commented on this yesterday, the curse of favoritism. Isaac favors Esau, and Rebekah favors Jacob. That is always a terrible thing to afflict a family, and it causes so much hurt and so much bitterness and so much division. How did Rebekah look out for the interests of her favorite son, Jacob? How did she look out for that and look after him in this situation? The answers are in verses 5 to 10. She listens, she understands what's going on. She is the one who gives him instruction. Would he have done it himself? Well, he didn't know what was going on. He hadn't the information she had. If he had, maybe he would have. He's a pretty smart guy. But Rebekah is a very smart woman, but not in necessarily a good way. Not on this occasion anyway. So she's the one who comes up with this tricky, dicky strategy to steal, to wrest, to take the blessing from Abraham. Of course, this is no ordinary blessing. This is the blessing ultimately going back to Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and so on. This would have been true as it is in some cultures and tribal situations today, where fathers bless their children, and it's a way of assuring them of an inheritance and what is to come. But this is unique, and this is the most special blessing of all. This is partly why Jacob wants it, and why Rebekah wants it for her beloved son. They're just going about it in totally the wrong way. So what does she say? Go out to the flock, get the animals. I'll prepare the tasty food just the way he likes it. We commented on this yesterday. Part of Isaac's vulnerability, particularly as an old man now, it's his stomach, it's his appetites. Rebekah knows that, and she can find a way into his heart through his stomach. And then more than that, because of the difference between, action man Esau, the hairy man out in the fields, and the quiet, reflective, timid Jacob, they take the skin of an animal with the hair on it and attach it to Jacob, so that he will feel like when old Isaac, who's nearly blind, touches him, he'll feel like his son. There's a lot of trickery going on here. Surely God's people would never behave like this. Surely this kind of disgraceful behavior, only pagans do this kind of thing, don't they? When people react like that, I say, you haven't read the Bible then. And of course, the tragedy with our Muslim friends, like I said yesterday, is they've been told the Bible is being corrupted. And they don't need to read the real Bible because they've got the Quran, which invalidates everything that went before. And anyway, God's saints, God's prophets, God's holy men would never behave like this. I think we know better, and it shouldn't surprise us, actually, because of the reality of sin, the devastating invasion of sin and Satan into this world, and it's affecting even God's people here, and it's affecting even God's people today, of course. So this is what's happening. We've mentioned this already. Rebecca, verse 15, she takes Esau's clothes so that, his smell was on them. And then verse 16, we've said, she covered his hands and the smooth part of his neck with the goatskins. And then verse 17, she handed to her son Jacob the tasty food and the bread she'd made. So this is the perfect trickery. And it's all coming from Rebecca. Mothers, be careful. Parents, be careful the way you lead your children and what you encourage them to do. And the strategies, some pushy parents who just want the best for their children. They do. But they'll go to extraordinary lengths to get them into the best schools, or to, make sure that the local vicar signs the form for them. Oh, yes, they attend our church regularly, and get them into that Church of England school, and then they never go again. Parents can behave disgracefully. It's happening here in the Bible. So it's all set up, and it works in a sense. That's the thing about false religion. That's the thing about works religion. That's the thing. It feels good. It looks good. It works, doesn't it? It does the job, but it doesn't get you to heaven. False religion. Because it's not good works that you're bringing to God. It's cursed works. Cursed are the works of my hands and the product of my heart and my own imagination. That's man-made religion. And in seeking a blessing, and he even gets a blessing. He gets the blessing. But he's also cursed in the process, in a sense. I mean, a curse comes upon this family, the curse of hatred and division and so on. We'll see that in a moment. And what about Jacob? Does Jacob have a personal relationship with God? Well, this does explain, I think, partly why he's behaving as he's behaving. I mean, his mother should have known better. Is she a real believer? Who knows? I think Isaac is. I think Abraham was. And Jacob certainly becomes one. But look what he says in verse 20. Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Now, there's two things there. Jacob is a barefaced liar at this point, and he is invoking God in his deceptive scheme. I mean, that's wicked. Using the name of God to get what you want and to deceive his own father. That's really bad. But how does he describe God? The Lord your God gave me success. Again, that seems to indicate that Isaac was a godly man. We don't actually know much about Isaac, but we get these little hints. I think so. But at this stage, I don't know about Jacob. I think he's close to the kingdom. And I think he sees something that he wants and desires and is pursuing. But I don't think he's there. I don't think he's in God's kingdom, really. I mean, I'm speculating now. Only God knows. But it is interesting. You can kind of chart the journey and see the progress of Jacob. And there will be a time, I think we'll even come to it tomorrow, yes, where Jacob meets the God of Isaac, and the Lord your God becomes the God of my fathers and the Lord my God. And he has to learn very painfully. He has to be broken, quite literally, when he wrestles with the angel and the angel touches him and breaks him, so that he will limp. He'll have that limp for the rest of his life, broken by the mercy and the power and the grace of God, so that now he has to trust, he has to lean, he has to rely on the Lord my God. But that isn't quite where Jacob is at this point, and that's why I think he's behaving as he's behaving. Jacob thought he could get the family blessing by cheating for it. But what was the result? Well, we saw that at the end, didn't we? We saw that Esau was enraged. I mean, he didn't seem to care too much about the birthright. He was quite willing to exchange that for a bowl of soup. The birthright and the blessing, of course, are linked, but the blessing is the big thing here. I mean, the number of times it's mentioned in that chapter and throughout these chapters and throughout the blessing, throughout the Bible, the blessing is the thing. It's a synonym for salvation, for knowing God, for being right with God, for having, everything that God has for us in this life and the next. Esau is cheated of that, and he is furious. Even though he's a worldly man, he knows that he's missed out, and he knows that his brother has not only cheated his father, he's cheated him, and he wants to kill him. That's what it says. And it's Rebecca says, your brother Esau is consoling himself with the thought of killing you. So he's making himself feel better at the thought of, when I get my hands on that Jacob, I get my hands around this. People do this, don't they? And that makes them feel a bit better then. What he's done to me, what I'm going to do to him. And people get sort of hot under the collar, and it makes them feel good for a while. That's Esau's response. And Esau is Superman, isn't he? Out in the fields with his hairy arms, killing animals. And poor little Jacob, who's a bit of a weedy, geeky kind of mummy's boy, like I said earlier. There's only one thing for it. He's going to have to flee. And in the following chapters, he's on the run. He's on the run from his brother and the consequences of his sinful actions. And the family is torn apart. And he's on the run. He might be on the run from God, or is he running towards God? It seems. I mean, this is what seems to happen. And then at a certain point, it seems like he's actually running towards God. And God is certainly after him. And as we'll see tomorrow in chapter 28, the Lord meets with him. It's one of the greatest stories of all, one of the greatest stories in the Bible. And ultimately it is a conversion story. And what we see in the life of Jacob, what we see in this man, is that though he started out so rotten and such a deceiver, and the consequences of his action were so desperate and dangerous, but he is pursued by the hound of heaven. The Lord does track him down, and the Lord does bring him down, because humility is the great thing. And out of humility comes faith and hope and love. And he does learn. And my friend, you need to learn. I need to learn that we need to go God's way, for there is no other way to get to heaven. There is no other way to be blessed on earth. God bless you, my friends. Hope to see you this time tomorrow for another exciting installment in the life of Jacob.